Good morning, everyone. Goku-san DBZ here, and this is the first of a series of on-again, off-again collection videos I'll be doing, looking at either Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh! With that said, first one is going to be looking at the basic amount of my artifacts in my Magic Gathering collection. So with that said, but yeah, also towards the end, I have separated what I do have of vintage cards. But with that said, this is the first batch of artifact creatures, and I have it organized by commons, then uncommons, then rares, and if I have any mythical rares after that. So with that said, this is some now of cards I have. Some of the older ones, some of my personal favorites is with that symbol, which is for, of course, Zendikar. And you have many different types of creatures when it comes to artifacts, because you can have artifact creatures or regular artifact items in all types of mana. Or like the standard ones, of course, are colorless, so doesn't matter what mana you have. But yeah, there's definitely a few specific ones that I've got more of. And I expect occasions see multiples like that when I have a lot of copies, which I got quite a few over the years of some of these artifacts. Now, some of these are like some of my newer ones. Golems are some of the more interesting creatures when it comes to artifact monsters. Some of them also have some really cool artwork like this. Yeah, interesting. You have things like scarecrows. Now, this creature, honestly, a lot of creatures in Magic remind me of creatures in like Dark Souls and stuff. Though, quite a few of the Magic designs were done before Dark Souls existed. Which makes me wonder if maybe, I don't definitely know, but sometimes I wonder if some of the people involved in the creation of the Souls games aren't perhaps Magic fans. I would not be surprised given a lot of them are heavily influenced by Lord of the Rings, especially in cases like Elden Ring, you can tell that. But artifact creatures are some of the more interesting creatures in Magic, in my opinion, and could be quite useful. Ah, yes, Mirror. One of my preferred creatures is Mirrors, and there's actually quite a few of them. But there's a few specific series that specialize in mirror creatures. Some of the mirror creature designs kind of remind me of slivers. The slivers are much harder to get a hold of nowadays. But mirrors, I don't see a lot of them in modern series. I don't know why, but this specific creature design reminds me a bit of Sin, the big baddie creature from Final Fantasy X. Also, if you're curious, the music today is the theme for Neverland from Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. But yeah, when it comes down to artifacts are some of the most important key cards you definitely want to have in whatever type of decks you build. The artifacts have never been really a big deal, at least in things like my burn decks. But life drain decks, I usually do have definitely a few cards. Now, core creature decks that I've used in the past definitely use quite a few artifacts in them, because they can definitely be quite useful in many cases. But especially if you want to use like specific types of water creature decks, you want to build artifacts that are must-haves for those types of decks. If you've never actually played Magic, I recommend, if you want a reasonably cheap, like good starter. You can get like starter decks on Amazon, a few that gets you not great overall, but you do get basic decent. Like you can get a twin pack starter, and a lot of times they'll only run like probably $10 to $20 on Amazon, so they're very affordable. Basic star decks. Now, if you want better quality cards, you can get some of like the commander decks. Just be wary that the price on commander decks are definitely a bit higher. Speaking as like a vampire deck that I got, I think it was like $45 or something, which is absurd, but Magic, or not Magic, but Wizards of the Coast are some greedy people. If you know anything about that special 30th anniversary pack, which was $1,000, which is absurd. But if you want to know more in depth about the values of past, or an idea about types of decks and stuff, and good advice, my knowledge on Magic overall, gameplay wise, is definitely more towards the lower overall tier, though I have been playing Magic off and on since the late 2000s, so well over a decade, but not super well versed in the knowledge compared to, say, a specific YouTube channel that I want to say the name of. Community college. I forget. Sometimes names of YouTube channels go over my head. But as you see, definitely some pretty cool creature designs here. And some more golem creature designs, and yeah, as you can tell now, we're in the uncommons. This is a pretty awesome creature, which kind of reminds me of a specific boss creature I faced off against last year in Hogwarts Legacy. Definitely has a very similar design. Also, some more of my mirror creatures. Love the artwork on this one. This is easily one of my favorites. Some other pretty cool creature designs. Now, just because some are like start out 0/0, that's because there is a special X cost, as you can see, and it mentions in special effect. Then we have some interesting ones in the collection. Now we're actually into some of the regular, like, artifact cards. Now, as you see, yeah, you pay 5 mana, for instance, to bring this up, but you still have to pay an additional 4 mana to equip it. But when you look at some of the abilities it gives, definitely it can be quite useful. Easily one of my favorite, when it comes to art-wise, one of my favorites of artifacts in my collection. Tolarian, that's the name of the YouTube channel. Tolarian Community College. I recommend checking out the professor. If you want to see a bit more how you play like Commander and stuff, you can check out his series called Shuffle Up and Play. I get a good kick out of his series, the Booster Box game, which is quite interesting. And then also, if you want better knowledge on whether something is really worth the value of picking up, check out his series called Is It Worth It to Buy? Trust me, I've seen got quite a bit of good picks and suggestions. Plus, of course, if you're interested in buying a bit more reasonable or you want specific individual cards, but you don't worry about as much, say, jacked up prices as you might see on Amazon or eBay, check out CardKingdom.com. It's probably one of the best sources when it comes to finding, and occasionally they will have sales as well. As one more recent booster pack, on average, most places goes for $4.99. Right now, it's on sale on their actual website for $3.49, so it's $1.50 off right now on every booster pack of the series. So, if you're curious, check out some of the sales going on. But if you want, yeah, specific individual cards, and you want maybe a bit more reasonable price, as everything is sold through CardKingdom.com themselves. As you see, a few more pretty awesome artifacts. Some can be useful. This one specifically is good if you want to play say you want to play a deck like an Angel deck. This is really good. That or a Life Gain deck. This is a good one if you do something like a Worm and Elf deck. This is quite useful. As an old friend of mine, which is really the one responsible for getting me into Magic in the first place, he always loved using his elf decks and would really annoy people. That also, he would occasionally play with goblin decks as well. Sadly, he moved away a while back, but I still appreciate the knowledge he gave me and got me introduced me to Magic. I knew about the game, but until my buddy would continuously keep trying to convince me to check out the game, and I am glad finally that I did. As one, I do love a lot of the artwork, and that's one of the cool things. You do have staggered artists for the company, but sometimes you can actually send in artwork to Wizards of the Coast, and they may end up publishing, and then you get like a base fee of money. Though nowadays, I'm not sure. That's how it was back in like the 2000s. But nowadays, now that like Hasbro owns Wizards of the Coast, hard to say. And they still do stuff like that. Not sure why I have this spot empty. But yeah, as you see, some of the newer cards have a ridiculous amount of text on them. And now we are actually on the rares in my collection. Some of the more interesting older cards are such as this one has actually a really good ability. And then you have some cards like this, which is actually a double-sided card. Just as an example, like, have that and then change sides, and you got completely different artwork, which is pretty cool just because they couldn't fit basically all the text onto one side. I'll struggle with that later. Then we go with some of the golems and stuff. On the more rare side, you have some good ones like this. Non-artifact spell costs 1 more to cast. So you better be using artifacts. Then you have some mirrors like this, which is quite useful if you're playing with a mirror deck. This specific card is very useful for its ability. If you want to pause quickly and check out the text on it. But yeah, overall, like I've said, overall collecting wise, I do have a little more fun collecting Yu-Gi-Oh cards. But for some reason, though, gameplay-wise, I just like Magic a little bit more overall when it comes to playing the game. And there, of course, you see in the picture, obviously, an Eldrazi, which can be nightmare to fight Eldrazi's. Probably one of the most annoying creature decks to face since Slivers. And believe me when I say, Slivers, like nowadays, especially old Sliver cards, go for a ridiculous amount of money. Now, of some of my artifacts in my collection, this is probably one of my favorites, as you can equip it and your opponent immediately gains Death Touch as well as Lifelink, which is quite a nice little ability to give your creature, especially if you have a reasonably powerful. But say you love vampires, this is a great artifact card to have in any vampire deck. Now we get into the only couple of mythical rares I have, and that's how you tell difference. Like basic on the side symbol, black for standard, silver for uncommons, yellow for regular rares, and then mythical rares are more of an orange. But with that said, these are arguably two of my most powerful, definitely artifact cards. I mean, it's ridiculous, its ability. As you can see, Trample, Infect, and basically states Bright Steel Colossus is indestructible. It's quite a nice little ability to have. And this is the only other mythical, though it's a spell card. Then we have the couple of hollows. Since it's random what it's going to be, because unlike where in Yu-Gi-Oh! Only things that have hollows are, like for the most part, super rares and stuff like that. Not the case in Magic. There's always a hollow in every pack, but it's random. It could be a common, uncommon, or you could get lucky. It might end up being a foil rare or mythical rare. And as you can see, it's literally the whole card. Another really one of my favorites when it comes to my artifacts. But I'll get ready to wrap up this video. But with that said, also, boy looks kind of like Tarkatans a little. Looks kind of like the creature or whatever from the game Knack for some reason. Then you have some of your elemental artifacts, as you can see, like for instance, costing a white, costing a blue. Definitely some pretty nice stuff. And if you do play Magic, what's your opinion? Do you enjoy using artifact cards, yay or nay? I know there are some people that will only use artifacts, and some people that don't like artifacts. Me, I'm down the middle. I actually enjoy artifacts quite a bit, and there's definitely some good artifact creatures, such as Leviathan here is one good one, with Island Walk, Trample, and Shroud. Definitely quite useful. And a 7-11. The rules of Magic are very, very complete polar opposite difference. Now that looks like the Tesseract. Definitely one of the more interesting mythicals, I will say, in my collection. And I love the fact it looks like Mayan and Aztec art style. And we're getting ready to go into my vintage cards, but this is the last more modern. And here we go. Of course, I love my dragons. Classic vintage dragon card. And there is a certain charm to these classic vintage cards. Walking Wall is definitely a nice one if you want a decent defense. And then these next two are my last two from our effect deck. With that said, I'll see y'all next time. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel, and stay safe out there. See you again soon enough.